Next thing I want to go over is I remember there was a mentor I had in the hood, right? Uh he owned like a vape shop and he was making like I think like 24,000 a month off of that vape shop. So he was doing good. And what's crazy is like everyone that came through his store, he treated like a student as if like he was teaching a dojo. You know what I mean? And he was selling them vapes, but also like giving them game, so to speak. And I remember he gave really good hookups because he didn't really need the money. And he was just giving people game. And we were talking about deep topics like success and everything. And a very wise guy. And I remember when I was like frustrated, this was like when I was in my 20s. Uh, Went to the Spanish mentor in the hood, and I was like, what is life all about? I was like, is it about success? Is it about happiness? Like, what the hell am I supposed to chase? What is like life and everything all about? I really asked him that because I was so frustrated. And he said, life is about appreciation. Enjoy what you have in front of you. Appreciate. And then the next question right after that, I asked him, but what if life, so much bad stuff is happening to me? That's even out of my control. Like, I'm not even doing anything other than minding my own business, and then bad shit is happening to me. How do I appreciate? And all this bad shit is happening to me. And then I get a ticket, and then I get this, and then I get that. Like, how can I be appreciative and grateful? And he said, you got to have the bad in order to even know what good is. And the bad helps you appreciate the good more. Because you've seen how far down you can go, or how high up you can climb. And I remember walking out of there mind blown. Like, he's right. At the end of the day, it's appreciation and mindset. That's really what I learned. Walking out of there with knowing what mindset to walk away with is appreciation.
Man, thank you so much for sharing that. I had to write that down. I've never heard that perspective. I've heard life is a lot of people's perspectives, and I've never heard it. Like, it's at the end of the day, it boils down to appreciation. So that speaks volumes. Um, wow, thank you.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, that's why contrast is also important. How do you appreciate the good if you haven't even been through the bad? Just like, how can you appreciate water if you're never thirsty?
Hmm.
And so
There,
contrast is needed. Go ahead, Raul.
I was going to say, I'm like, there's actually a pretty decent book about this. C.S. Lewis wrote called The Great Divorce, and it talks about the differences between heaven, hell, and earth, and how those three things really can't. To understand one, you have to understand the other two. If you've never been to earth, how would you ever understand the grandeur of heaven and then the pain of hell? And if you've only been to hell, you kind of lose that. I think a lot of people get mixed up with the idea that, hey, everything's got to be just sunshine and roses, and it's not. And I think a lot of it too is what we get sold at a young age is that we're going to make the right steps, we're going to do the right thing. Even like you said, I'm just minding my own business. Like you're on Earth time, man. Like there's no guarantee that things are going to go right. If anything, there's a guarantee that things will probably. And I think a lot of people don't. It's unfair. Don't get me wrong. The whole idea of it is unfair. But when you say, I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't doing anything, and bad things are happening to me. It's like, yeah, bad things happen, whether you instigate them or not. That's something. And once you take that, I think that's something that a lot of people, there's a lot of Eastern religions that kind of understand that there is the good with the bad, yin and the yang. But people also don't understand that life's going to happen to them. They aren't just going to participate in it, but life is going to happen to them as well. Bad things. You're born into a bad family. You're born with one leg. You're born with a learning disorder. You're born into a caste system. You did nothing. You were absolutely doing nothing, minding your own business, not being existent. And now you exist in this scenario. I think we get under the assumption that life is fair, and if anything, life is completely already default set to unfair. It's how we accept that and how we move forward from that. Because good things will happen to us, but we also have to accept bad things will too. And it's like that. And honestly, the days of me not having any money only made me appreciate the days that I did have money. That's the contrast. I think harkening back to the story about my grandpa, he knew what it was like not to have a roof over his head. He knew what it was like to be alone with no family. So the one thing that when he got family and a roof over his head, he appreciated the hell out. I mean, he honestly lived another 10 years just because he loved being around his grandkids. So I think that's a big, if anybody takes one thing away, I think that contrast that you just talked about is freaking huge in this for people who want to be content and happy, or at least in a better spot from where they are emotionally and just overall in life. They have to accept that there is that contrast. So
I like that role because just a very small example. Like I liked how you use your grandfather and yourself not like having money, then the contrast of you having money. On the flip side, it's like maybe how would you know maybe what the right opposite sex would be? The right girl for you until you've been with so many, or maybe even just a few of the wrong ones to know what the right one should look like to you.
Yeah.
And that's just a small perspective to add to that. But I think if I can take anything away, that contrast is huge. Going through it, it sucks initially, but when you get to the other end, uh, you start appreciating it. You get to a point where you never thought, wow, I can appreciate not having money now, because now that I do have it, I can see why, what it taught me, the lessons. Um, uh, it's the duality of life, the two sides to everything. So sometimes it's all right to learn the first side so you can be super grateful on the second side.
Yeah.